Hey everyone, I'm gonna do another video, and it's gonna be a follow-up from my failure from last week of where I was trying to make a virtual machine, a Windows 11 virtual machine. I did some research during the middle of the week, beginning of the week, and actually spent about 2 hours today trying to get it to work. My other computer worked fine. This one was problematic. So this problem, and it's not really a problem, it's how it was designed. But what do I want to say here? It was partially my fault and partially not. So Windows 11 requires a TPM, Trusted Platform Module, and you can find that in your settings or in the Start menu, and then if you type in TPM under Device Security. Um, this is here now. If you don't have this here, most of you do, most of you should, but I didn't have Security Processor. When this when Windows 11 first came out, I turned off the TPM. They required the TPM and then they didn't. And I just said at the time, you know what, I don't need this. Probably still don't, other than the fact I want to make this VM. Can't believe I forgot about it, but that was 5 years ago now. But anyways, and maybe I looked at it. I want to say I looked in Device Manager and here in Device Manager. I thought I looked last week. I'd have to look at the video. I thought I had this here. But anyways, a couple hours ago, I was researching, looking, and I looked in here after finding some blog posts, and this was telling me I didn't have it enabled in the BIOS, and I can't show you that because the BIOS is the core of the operating system. It's no operating system at that point. Went into my BIOS of the motherboard and search for TPM, and it wasn't. It was disabled, so I must have turned it off many years ago and forgot about it. I think, like I said, I think when Microsoft released Windows 11, they required a TPM, and then I think for a short time they didn't require that. But I'm not going to bet money on that. Don't quote me on that. But anyways, long story short, I didn't have it turned on. I turned it on, rebooted, um, and then this did show up here. It took a little bit after I did an update. Now, the other end of the spectrum, the other thing is this little part, this blog post I found, and this code right here. And this is what I did. Earlier this week on my laptop, I ran this code, and it worked pretty much out of the box. It worked right away for me. And the reason why I'm stressing this is because it worked. That specifies that it worked. But on this computer, it did not. Sorry, my thoughts are a little bit scattered. We'll blame CrowdStrike because of everything that they had going on yesterday and this weekend, even though that didn't affect me. So, gotta laugh about that, or I guess I laugh, but maybe that's just me. But anyways, the reason why I've got this right here is from this blog post. This I actually found in another forum, and I wish I would have kept that. I could probably find it easily enough, but they were kind of denigrating towards the person that was asking. The reason why I bring this up is because they were saying, so if you teach long enough, you realize you can make simple mistakes too. I did a video, and I probably should have tested this or researched it. That blog post, they kind of denigrated and were kind of condescending to the individual that was asking the question, saying, well, we at least expect people to ask questions, which is true of our field, but if you're new or if you're just trying to learn the technology, that's where it's kind of hard. And I'm showing this because this is what worked. This is from the blog post. And this wouldn't work on this computer. It worked on my laptop. There were things that I had to modify on the fly, meaning just a half hour ago I got it to work. And I changed it to this code. I took out a few things like specifying the DVD ROM drive. I guess I'll show both when I do this so that we can see what it does, so we can get back to the same error in case anyone has a problem with it. So all I'm going to do, if anyone's never done this before, and I'll give credit to it, when I upload this, when I get it all together, I don't even have last week's video on my website on CyberHands, which is now registered. I actually have that, and it's going. That's not perfect, but that's the whole point. Cyberhands.tech. I've never coded before. I've never made a website before. I'm kind of doing things, little bit new, a little bit different is the whole thing. Why is my oh, there you go. That's what I have to click on for my avatar to not be floating differently like that. But anyways, I was updating my HTML and my code, and hopefully I can get this done and get back to my Python coding and some APIs I'm developing for a Yara teaching tool. Um, but going back to this, when I get this all done, I'll upload it. It might be tomorrow. It might be tomorrow next week. I'll upload it to my blog for all of this, and both videos, this one and the one from last week, along with a link to the Microsoft community here, so everyone can see it. But I'm going to go ahead and run this. Where I'm going to run this at is I'm going to right-click down here. This is PowerShell that I have, and I'm going to run as administrator because PowerShell, command prompt, these are things that you can run as either administrator or a non-administrative account. I'm just going to, I copied that command, or I copied what was in this blog post. And again, I'm going to specify this. I don't know this perfectly, but I'm just getting to the point where a VM can be used, and so I can show or get back to a Windows 11 VM. So I didn't right-click and copy. I hit Shift and Insert, and I want everything in there. And this is where I say it's, the original blog post, they denigrated the individual asking the question a little bit, and I think, okay, that's a little bit condescending and something we shouldn't do in our field, because there's some things here that you don't know, and then I had to even modify this script. And yes, it's on my fault for just assuming that I know how to create a VM, which I do. For the last 20 years, creating a VM, 15 years, we'll say, 15 to 20 years of creating a VM has been the same. It's only the last couple of years it's changed because of this TPM requirement, because of cybersecurity. So if for this individual that was asking the question, you run this script and it's saying, well, please provide a virtual machine name. Some of this is pretty easy, but if you don't know, you don't know. Now, when I create this name, it's going to be in the Hyper-V Manager, or whichever one you probably use. I think this script should only work for Hyper-V now that I look at it, I would assume. But I'm going to go ahead and just call this CyberHands 1 blog VM because, one I want. My numlock must not be on. There we go. Because I already have one called CyberHands blog VM. That's Windows 10. Let's call it 11 now that I think about it. Let's call it Windows 10 or Windows 11, so they'll just make that distinction. And then it goes, please provide the virtual switch name. The virtual switch name is how it gets internet access. And the default name is default switch. And I'm going to modify that. I'm just putting this in here to create it. And please provide the full path for the Windows. This says Windows Server 2002 install media. That's because going back to this blog post, that's what they had here. This is just text to the user. This is just, hey, what specify which VM you're installing. I guess I probably should have changed that. That can stay the way that it is. It's really just the Windows 11 virtual machine, and that is in my downloads from last week. So if I bring this over, I'm going to copy this path and bring this up and hit enter and do a backslash and then copy the ISO file name by just clicking in here. And let's select all of that and copy. Go back to PowerShell and Shift Insert. And I've got that. That's the ISO. You can make that simpler by renaming it, but I'm keeping the default. Please provide the path to store the virtual machine. This will be from last week. I store mine in C:\\Hyper-V, which is my own default path folder, however you want to say it. Hit Shift Insert and hit Enter, and then it should go and create the virtual machine. Goes through, does some things, and there we go. Now, watch it make a liar out of me. Watch it work now. But I'm going to go here, and this is the new one that we created. I'm going to make this full screen. I'm going to enter here, and I'm going to go to File Settings. And there's a couple things here. I think the initial problem why I had to modify the code is this part right here. I'm going to change this code so it doesn't just reference the DVD-ROM drive. I think that's where we're getting some of the error. If I go here now, I've got TPM enabled, and I can do this with the GUI. But if you look at this code here, there's more here, and I think really the key things that you needed was this part right here. And again, I'm not. This isn't a VM class. I'm not a VM master. I'm just trying to get from point A to point B to do this with my for my blog post, like I said last week. And then here's the hard drive. It's in that path that we specified, and the DVD-ROM drive. When I turn this on, though, I'm going to get the same error. And then I'm just going to go and delete this and recreate it with the shortened code, abbreviated code, and go from there. Turn it on. Is it going to make it? Is it going to work now? Nope. Okay, it doesn't work here. Good. That's what I want to see. So this is why I say this, or this is why I'm saying a lot of the things that I'm saying. You know, the feel. Actually, aside on the one gentleman who was kind of like, okay, you guys are kind of rude, and they're turning around saying, well, we expect people to do searches, and here I'm saying, I'm 25 years in the field, and I still ended up spending at a minimum 2 hours, but really, if I'm going to be honest, about 4 or 5 hours on this altogether from beginning to end. So let's delete this CyberHands 11 blog VM. Are you sure I want to delete all those selected virtual machines? Let me say no, because I want to make sure I only had the one. Yep, I only had the one. Delete this guy. And I want to go delete that path. Delete it from that path, because it's still in the file system here. And I'm going to go back here, and what I'm going to use is just this. And I forget exactly what I deleted. We can look real quick. I deleted this line right here, the ISO. So within the script, it's not prompting us for the ISO. I guess I did change that. I'm creating the virtual machine, and then I'm going and specifying it is what I'm doing, is the whole goal. And then let's see, VM path, new VM, set VM, and then I remove this add VM drive. That's the firmware, where if you have that specified on this one, actually it's this line and this line I removed. And if you have those specified, then it doesn't know what to boot off of, and I think that's partially part of the problem with that code. Maybe I'm wrong in there, and maybe I didn't even read all the whole blog post, if you want me to be honest with you. So let's go back, let's copy that, go back to PowerShell, hit enter, or I'm sorry, hit Shift Insert to put this in. Please provide the virtual machine name, or we'll go with CyberHands 11 blog VM. I forget what we called it. We'll go with that. Please provide the name of the default switch of the virtual switch to be used, and its default switch. Please provide the path to store the VM, and I'm just going to go to not there. We're storing that in C:\\Hyper-V, so copy this and insert, and it creates it, and that's a much simpler thing. That's the other thing when you start too. You kind of want to start, if you're trying to get into this field. I always say start simple and then add the complexity. I say that because so many people, in my opinion, when they're teaching it, they're like, oh yeah, let's go to a 10-page process involving 5 scripts, and you don't know what you're doing. That's why you kind of have to do some of these things manually, even if you're doing it by the GUI, so that you understand what's going on with it, and then you build out into orchestration automation from there. So that created the virtual machine. If I go back to here now, I should see it. There we go. That's my Windows 11 virtual machine. Double click on this and go to File and Settings. And this is the difference here between the other one and this one. The other way, now when this boots, it's going to do PXE boot off the hard drive, or off the network card, and then boot to the hard drive. That's generally how a traditional computer works. The other code, this right here, would just make it boot off of the DVD-ROM drive, the ISO, which I think is where I was getting that problem from. So now down here, there's not a DVD-ROM drive. This is where I'm going to add hardware by clicking Add Hardware, SCSI Controller, and Add, and then DVD-ROM drive or DVD drive, and then image file, browse. I'm going to go to downloads, and this is my Windows 11 one. I know it's my Windows 11 one because I'm looking at the timestamp from last Friday or Saturday when we were doing this, and hit OK. And if I go to TPM security, to go look at this again, I've got enable boot and enable trusted platform, and this should be good. This is what I just did a half hour ago, I believe, and I'm going to hit apply and OK and start, and it's going to boot to boot P Pixie Boot, which is right here, where it's looking for a boot server, an image server over the network. Eventually this times out. I forget what the default timeout is for Windows, or just for this process, but a minute generally is how long it takes. And I've got to be ready because eventually it's going to look at the CD/DVD ROM drive, and it's going to say press any key to boot from this DVD ROM drive or image file, ISO file, however you want to phrase it. And you have to do that. You have to hit a couple keys on your keyboard, and it will boot off of that. And then last week we actually did boot off the DVD ROM drive or the ISO file, and we got another error about it, how it didn't meet requirements because of TPM. I've gotten past now because of this process. So want to get this video done and go from there. And I'm actually going to show something else so that we can see it. And I wish I would have done this. I hit the keys there on the keyboard. I wish I would have done this when I taught college. I'm going to remove the default switch, and I'll explain why now that I'm doing this video. So from here, I'm just going to hit next, install now, and it was here last week when we got this other error. And here, this is what we should see on a normal setup. This virtual machine is seeing the security requirements in this regard. So I can say I accept the Microsoft software license terms, and I can go next. And custom. And just like last week, I'm just going to go new. It's 124 gig and apply. And this is going to create more partitions and hit OK. And there we go. We got those partitions. And this one comes up automatically, drive 0, partition 3, selected. It's going to install it onto the primary. It's going to install Windows. That'll be my C drive. And go next. And here's where it will just copy files. Now at this point, I think I'm going to let this go. I said I was going to boot up off of the into the virtual machine and show some things with the default switch or remove the default switch. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to end this video since I'm 17 minutes into it, 18 minutes into it, and get this ready for a blog post for tomorrow. And then next week or the week after, I'll do another one. I think next week I might want to actually get back to scoping out, writing the blog of the continuing on how to get this security baseline out there. For now, I'm going to just end this, I think, and then upload this tomorrow once I get it ready from my website and YouTube and the rest of the ones that I'm using. I'm getting more of my socials out there too. And I don't know if anyone cares about that, but I'm really not doing it for anyone. I'm doing it for me, just for the whole fact of various reasons, and I've said that before. I've never done coding. I've never done an HTML website. Much easier than it was 20 years ago. All of those reasons, and just to go from there, and we'll stop it. But anyways, if you tuned in today, thank you for being here. I hope I teach some people some things, and I hope this helps people. But thank you. Have a good rest of your day.